like I've got a script and everything. This video is going to be amazing. Here I am sitting on my patio and I have had a brilliant day out yesterday, filming right at the beginning of September. The schools are about to go back and my thoughts are turning to the changing autumn season. If you're looking for some inspiration on how to jazz up your autumn decor, this is the perfect video for you. And like me, you might want to get some inspiration from a local Brocante, a lovely French-themed vintage sale, or perhaps even from an historic home. Watch on to the end of the video and I'll share some snippets from my visit to Rudyard Kipling's home at Bateman's in East Sussex. Hello there, I'm Julie from Julie Davis Flower Workshops and Flower Start, the online flower arranging classes. Come on then, let's get in the car and drive less than 40 miles, which is going to take us an hour and a half, and let's visit the fabulous Brocante at King's John Nursery in Etchingham. Once we'd parked up in the neighbouring field, I was delighted to see the first stall with the Florist as Silby and Sorrel. I picked up this beautiful flower care card which reminds you to keep your flowers out of direct sunlight, away from other heat sources, including your Arga. Let's start off with this beautiful autumn themed vase. I'm wondering whether you could buy a plain white vase and put in a transfer or a stamp on it. I'm always drawn to the colour red, and I come shopping with my friend Lisa, who loves making bunting, and I think this colour combination would be fantastic for the autumn season running into Christmas, mixing the geometric checks with a floral and then some embroidered pieces. Even if you didn't come out with the intention of buying anything, there are just so many ideas to pick up from the way the individual sellers have styled their little booths. My eye, of course, is drawn to this red and white transferware, and see the little lidded pot off to the side. It was exquisite. Last time I went thrifting with friends, something fell off a shelf. It wasn't our fault, so I'm being particularly careful as I pick up the pieces to have a look. I think autumn is all about bringing the outdoors in and noticing the changing seasons. Did you see all those rosebud heads tucked into the wooden trug? More transferware, just a couple of heads of pink hydrangea put into a cream jug. Absolutely simple, but beautiful all the same. I'm always on the hunt for flower frogs. Aren't these unusual shapes? The quarter circle. There's, I think, what's called the sun and the moon, which interlock together, and then a very large round one. And by the end of the sale, this whole table had been cleared out of every single one. Decorating for autumn needn't be difficult. How about this idea? Tumbling apples, which could be windfalls, into a bucket and just making a statement with them. A couple of check napkins off to the side, and then another red and white transferware piece. One thing we did spot throughout the sale was how many original works of art there were depicting flowers. Absolutely gorgeous. My eye was particularly taken by the roses, and the oils had been put on really thickly. There's a great texture to it. And if you can't afford your own original artwork, create your own with beautiful seasonally coloured roses in jars. And next time you're blackberry picking, don't just pick blackberries, pick a whole sprig too. Next we came across a stall with vintage French fabrics, and here they've made them into stuffed pumpkins using cinnamon sticks as the stalks. And if you're looking for more inspiration on how you can style your home, don't forget to check out my previous video from the Decorative Living Fair. I'll leave details of it in the notes underneath the video. I spotted a couple of these cast iron planters with the white cyclamens, and look, another little work of art poking out in the background. I was particularly drawn to this stall. It was mainly white crockery, but see how it's been styled up with an aubergine and a Cavolo Nero leaf. On the shelf underneath there's a picture of some pastel orange roses, and the styling of that with the cutlery, the bone handles and the bundle of books next door really brings together the whole vignette. A great idea to try and copy at home. And if pastels and pinks aren't your thing, how about collecting together some earthenware pots, some wooden chopping boards and add in some lemons? There were beautiful flower arrangements in every stall and down the main aisles. This seasonal display was put into an earthenware crock, and I love how it combines the colours from the picture below, and then this tangle of tassels. It just looks really great together, but I'm not sure I could get away with that at home. I've never seen what I imagine are miniature aubergines before, but I do know somewhere where I can get hold of some figs, and that's given me an idea for displaying things on my kitchen table. I did notice lots of pinks and of course the red and whites everywhere, rather than the more traditional autumn tones of oranges and yellows. I love here the way the dusky napkin there just picks up on the detailing of the lavender next to it. And the hops, of course it's hop season. And Faversham, where I live, is the home of the International Hop Festival. Can you see the dried artichoke heads that are being used in the display here? There's some fresh ones in the gardens at Bateman's, so hang on to the end of the video and I'll show you them. And who doesn't love a classic white jug? Just imagine it with dahlias tumbling out of it. And on the subject of dahlias, this lovely peachy pink tone which sits so well with the hydrangea and the eucalyptus. If you've been following along with me for a while, you'll know I'm always drawn to red transferware. Now these pieces look very usable, quite chunky crockery, and I don't think they've got much age to them, having checked out the back stamp. They're dishwasher proof. I spy a glass flower block, and I think that says £7. Lovely green vase off to the side. There is just so much to look at, and perhaps you're spotting things that I'm not picking up on. Let me know in the comments. Do you see the 3 glass dressing table trays? And here they're actually being used as trays. It's always a good idea just to think how you can repurpose things. In the next booth we spotted some dried lavender. I can't remember how much it was, but it did amuse me because we've just cut down our lavender and trimmed our hedges right back at home. And how about this for an idea? A crock pot with a white geranium in it, all sitting on a child-sized chair. Just such a lovely, simple idea. And even the string tumbled in a bowl. That would take you right up to Christmas time. Now this is something I'm definitely going to do. Use the lavender I cut yesterday and display it in a bowl. And the cast iron, £125. I rather like the green pickle style jar next to it. And if you haven't got an original oil painting to theme your autumn displays, how about grouping together some of your favourite autumn themed books and use those as your starting point? There are more autumn pinks here, the soaps and these lovely French drinking bowls. And as the camera pans around, you'll see a basket on a little cabinet that's got some fresh hydrangea blooms in them. So as we're coming now into mid-September, now's the time to start thinking about what hydrangeas you can cut back for drying. I tend to do it quite late in the season in order that my hydrangeas dry rather than wilt. And what do you think of this chap, the gnome pick, sitting in an apple on a little stack of books? The lady on this stall was kind enough to let me help myself to some of her windfall apples. But again, a great way to display them in a basket. And once again, if you can't afford some original oil paintings, how about some prints instead? These ones have been pinned up on a little washing line. And then there's tiny glass bottles. I thought I could do this with some glass test tubes that I've got, and they actually seem to be hanging from a vintage coat hanger. There was such a lovely ambience at the sale and so many beautiful things to look at. Oh, rose hips. I must add that to my picking list next time I'm on a walk. And this crock here, filled to the brim with lavender with a few dried roses off to the side. I just love the way this oil painting, the colours on it, have been used to inspire the candle collection next to it. See how well the colours go together. A really creative idea. And there's some dried honesty there too. Do you remember having a nature table when you were at primary school, bringing in your collections of things you'd found on your walks? I love this idea here. These are actually artificial leaves, but collected together and displayed to beautiful effect. And another little vignette collection here, the soaps and the candles, picking up on the little embroidered piece. And another pickle jar. This one was quite large at £45. And if I had space for it, that emerald green chair would have come home with me. We headed off to the cafe for a spot of lunch, I think like everyone else, so some of the crowds have thinned out a little bit, so I get an even better look at this particular booth. And what about this for an idea? Either for Christmas, perhaps autumn time. I'm being cheeky here and turning over the silverware to discover it came from Zara Home, so it isn't an antique or heirloom piece after all. But if you're out collecting pine cones on your winter walk, have a closer look in your garden too. Have you got alliums or honesty? Look how creatively these have been displayed, backlit by fairy lights with white crockery and a commemorative coronation mug. We spotted a similar styled setup on the other side of the cafe, and this time it's green tinted glassware with rooted little spider plant babies, which coordinated really well with the green coffee pot set underneath. And then we went out into the gardens. I really love this, another collection. So you may not have a stone slab that you can put on tree trunks, but perhaps you've got a patio table when you can collect together all your favourite plant pots. I rather like the way this leather backpack was hanging up on the garden gate. And then we walked through into another little room in the gardens. It's really interesting seeing what's in season growing naturally. There's some sedum and some Viburnum bonararis, I'm not quite sure how I say that, and then a beautiful red admiral butterfly. Our next stop was Rudyard Kipling's home, the Bateman's, just outside Burwash in East Sussex. We walked through the kitchen gardens and saw a tangled mass of dead sweet peas, but these are here so the sweet pea pods can dry out and the seeds can be saved for planting next year. And then here are the artichokes in full flower, and we're having a discussion as to when you should best pick your artichokes. I think if you're going to display them, you need to pick them when they're still closed. If you pick them when they're open, they carry on maturing and all those little blooms just burst open and the whole head falls apart. I'd put them in a low container rather than a vase, as if you were displaying something really precious. Now, if you watched my dahlia arranging video last time round, you'll have spotted me using amaranthus. And here there's a vast patch of pumpkins all ready for the season. And check out those plump rose hips. So these will be from garden roses rather than the wild roses you'll see on your country walk. They were really big but ever so slightly soft. And a little bit of a glimpse of the apple trees in the garden and the Cabello Nero growing in the vegetable patch. And if you love moss, we were quite interested to see that all the fruit trees had this lovely textural moss on it. And of course, in the home of Rudyard Kipling, one of his poems had been immortalised in these little decorative ironwork pieces. They are verses from his poem, The Glory of the Garden. And yes, of course, we had a cup of tea and a slice of cake as we admired the herbaceous borders. Our next stop was into Rudyard Kipling's home himself. I was particularly intrigued by this little flower arranging block. I can't imagine you get many flowers in those tiny holes at the front though. And this is the living room where the family would gather in the evenings. and then we went upstairs to have a look at his study, and apparently it's exactly as he left it in the 1930s, and it's got a huge wastebasket at the end, and Rudyard Kipling's wife, Carrie or Caroline, used to empty it at the end of the day in order that the staff wouldn't sell off the works. And above the mantelpiece is a painting of Carrie. And I didn't realise that Rudyard Kipling had been awarded a Nobel Prize. Of course, I've always got half an eye to the flower arrangements, and on practically every flat surface there was a simple vase of flowers freshly picked from the gardens. And this next display in the kitchen tickled me a bit. There's some dried flowers here, and there are also dried flowers hanging over the Aga. But this little display here showing exactly what was in season in the garden, and somebody had forgotten to refill the vases. If you're interested in visiting Rudyard Kipling's home, I'll leave a little note at the end, and you can see the walks and trails you can do around the garden and locally. I hope you enjoyed visiting the nursery and the special Brocante event with me, and also Bateman's, Rudyard Kipling's absolutely fabulous home and garden. And a question for you. What 2 items do you think I bought from the Brocante? See whether you can have a guess based on a few clues I've left in the video. Have a guess in the comments, but I will be filming a thrift haul video of all my summer finds in a future video. That's all for me for now, and I'll see you again next time.